Hello and welcome to episode 40 of the No Excuses podcast. My name's Anne and I live in the middle of England in Worcestershire with my hubby, who you might be able to hear a little bit of noise from in the next but one room where he's got some music video playing, and our dog who's lying behind us, me. I'm in a slightly different position. I don't know how, or you can see even more mess. So I would say excuse the mess, but this is how I live. I'm sorry, it's been 3 weeks since I've last spoken to you, and that's really bad of me because, as you know, I normally like to come and talk to you every 2 weeks. And it's been too hot and I've been reading. Not excuses, that's what's happened. But I'm back today and I've got plenty to talk about. So, if you like hearing about wishy-washy stuff and a bit of knitting and me going on about something and nothing, then please stay. There'll be plenty of that. Okay, let's take a couple of minutes to talk about the make-alongs that are in the podcast. There is the year-long Something New in 22, and for that there's a Ravelry group, and you can enter on Instagram, and the details are below along with the hashtags that are associated with the current mals. Something New in 22 means that a technique or anything that you've not tried before, and of course it can relate to any craft. You might be having a go at throwing your first pot on a wheel, for instance. A bit obscure, but there you go. Actually, I've got a new pot that my auntie Anne made. My uncle, my dad's brother, and his wife Anne are potters by profession, and they've made a living out of it. They live in South Wales, and my mum's just been to visit them, and I said to her I'm after a pot, and so if I remember I'm going to put a photograph in of the new pot that my auntie Anne, I presume she threw it herself and then but she certainly painted it. So yeah, I've got that to include. I must remember I need to write a little note in a different colour to what I've been writing in, otherwise I won't notice. So just bear with me a second. And pot. And then the so that's the first mal, Something New in 22, and the current mal that is just lasting until September is the bob along, and you can make anything as long as it's something, you know, not just one dishcloth. Heather's already entered on the Ravelry thread. She's put 2 hats in there to class as one. That's that sort of thing, or a pair of socks. It's just a mal, but if you have got bobbles in your project or you're using scraps, then you get extra entries. So please tell me, even if it's evidence, just so I can pick it up fairly and then put it on my spreadsheet that you've got extra entries. So that ends at the end of September. So the bob along and Something New in 22. Anything I talk about, hopefully, will be down below. I'm going to say downstairs then, which isn't a word I use very often because I live in a bung. Is listed down below, and if I haven't included anything, you know, there are various contact details as well where you can get in touch with me, and you know that I like to hear from you. It is about, it must be getting on for nearly 7 o'clock now. I've been to Mum's today, and then I've come back, done a little bit of knitting. I'm undoing that knitting, so I thought it was time to get on a podcast before we start losing any light, although it's very bright outside at the moment because we've only just passed the longest day, my sister's birthday. I recorded this podcast yesterday and I was wearing a bit of tat, my summer equivalent to my house jumpers that I wear in the winter, which is a bit of a tatty cotton cardigan that I've worn before last summer. I had a tatty t-shirt on, and I was going to call it, because I'd been away for 3 weeks, back tat and chat, you see. But I can't do that now because I'm wearing something slightly more upgraded. And this is a cotton top that is my own, can't really say design, but it's something I've put my own effort in to. Don't know if you can see that. It's just a rib, a broken rib design. It's got some eyelets built into the rib at the top, and I've got a little vest top on underneath. This I think is a scoop neck. It looks a bit V-ish. It's a scoop neck, and it's got grown on sleeves. All I did was I took the stitch count from a Rowan pattern. I've got the is it the soft yak? It might be the soft yak, or one of the Summer Light cotton books. Made a top out of it, the Sonam. Like the fit of it, so I just used the stitch count, and I've knitted. Last summer I knitted 2 other tops out of some cheap cotton that I bought on Facebook. So I can't tell you where I got this lovely bottle green from, but it's it shows a heavy speck of bits and things. And if, like in our household, people keep leaving tissues in their pockets when the washing's on, there's always bits of tissue and that floating around. But yeah, it's wearing all right. It's going a little bit pilly, but cotton does that, doesn't it? And you know what I'm like about pills. I've decided to ignore them. Yeah, it's a bit thick. I wouldn't wear this on a really, really hot day, and it's also slightly short for what I want, but I think I've run out of yarn. So yeah, so this is my little dark green top. Yes. What have we finished? Well, I have left it behind me. I'm going to grab it. Bear with a second. I'm going to wibble backwards and not into Bertie. You stay there, Boo. I say stay to him, and then he gets up. Oh yeah, hello. Hello, sausage. Bert's been deaf. Every now and again when we give him eardrops, we try not to put too many in there. He goes deaf for a little while, don't you? You right? But I could tell when I got back from Mum's today that he was no longer deaf, because he's like back to his old self. Anyway, I digress as always. I'm a bit nearer to you, so I'll go back a bit slightly. Here we go. Turn the chair off. So, finished items. So I'm looking at my notes. This is the sea glass hat by Wool and Pine. And you can see it's a slip stitch pattern. Now, this didn't take me very long to knit. It's 4-ply, and you may recognise the colours because these are the colours that were in the litmus cowl that I showed you last time. I'm wanting to use as much of the yarn in that cowl on other things as well, with a view probably trying to sell most of them on the craft stall that we've got. Hopefully get. I mean, if we don't get this craft stall, I don't know what we're going to do. We're going to have items aplenty to give away and all sorts. People will be getting unusual Christmas presents this year otherwise. But yeah, it's you can see it's got stripes of colouring. The grey, the light grey is Casper by Yarnworthy, and the stripes are the most of them are the Shadow Minis by Riverknits, and I added to a couple of brighter ones like the bright pink there. I bought at Wonderwool. I bought 4 lighter, brighter ones to add into the darker mix that is the Shadow Rainbows that Becky and Marcus dye. So yeah, nice little neat hat. I quite enjoyed doing that actually. And is it Ange? Are you doing a sea glass top? And I quite fancy doing something like that. We'll see. I fancy doing loads of things, you know. Plans are plenty. And that's my only finished item. Now, associated with that, because I showed you the litmus cowl last time. Just drag this out. See how organised and prepared I am. I've been, in an effort to use up the remaining, I know the sun is the light shining on it. But this is the remaining of the minis I've got. So they've gone quite a long way. They're 20 gram minis, and I've got lots of little colours. Lots of little colours. I've been crocheting little 2 round granny squares in each colour in order to make another item for the store, or it might go to a friend who I know will wear this. I'm not saying any more because she's probably watching. So my idea is that I will use these little crochet squares, and I'll either do them like join as you go when you do a blanket, and I'll do some black squares as well, so you get more of a stained glass effect. Or Elite of Craft House Magic is making the Ziggy Interrupted by Sandra Paul of Cherry Heart. And what Sandra does is she takes and turns the little squares into diamonds, puts them on the longest edge, like that. Longest edge, you know what I mean? Turns them up like that. And then they've got, there's a row of those, and then she's got zigzag crochet going up, and then there's another set of these, and so on. I don't own the pattern, but I like the look of it. But I'm thinking if I do join as you go and go around the squares, that's going to be easier for me, and I might get a little bit more length for my yarn. So I'm going to have a play with that and see how we get on. It's the sort of thing I can take outside with me quite easily and just, you know, have a little play. I've done 2 squares of each, and I've got 16 colours, so I've already got 32, and I've done a couple of the black squares as well in order to put in between. But I was trying to make the black squares a bit lighter in weight, so they had a few more holes in them, you know, like not such a dense granny square as the colour, because black can be really detracting from colours. I'll stop waving my hands about. Yeah, I'm trying to talk slower than last time, but I just yatter. That's the only, yeah, so that's the follow-on from using the minis up from the litmus cow, and a pair of mitts that I made as well out of the, they're sort of bronzy colours that were in the set. Then, so we're now going to move into making progress, and this is my Runway tea. I've got plans to make these summer tops that I want to do. I want to do the Seleste by Sari Norlund, which is a bit like the summer. It's a summer version, a bit like the Whitmore. It's the same horseshoe lace, I think, very similar anyway. But Sari brought out the winter weight one, which I think is worsted or Aran, and now she's done a summer weight one in DK, and I really want to make that, and I want to make it out of the bamboo and cotton naturals that I bought from Stylecraft last year in a sort of it's called pumice, I think. I'll show it you last time, but it looks very much like the pattern, and I'm thinking, do I want my top to look exactly like the one that Sari made, or shall I use the green colour instead, just doing the changes? Does it really matter? I beat myself up. I go round and round in circles all the time about what to do next. So instead of thinking about the future, let's have a look at what I've been doing. Those lovely loyal, I can say fans then, subscribers that have been, I don't know if you use fans, honestly. Subscribers who've been with me some time may recall that I started this beauty, and it's huge, last year, and it's Lithuanian linen, and it's the Runway tea by, I always get her name wrong, Stella Ackroyd. I don't know why, but I want to call her Sylvie or something. And the original pattern, which I'll put a photograph of, is done in deeper stripes than this. in the same yarn, Lithuanian linen from Midwinter Yarns, and where the colour changes occur, there's an eyelet row. But I didn't want that, of course. I didn't want... Do I ever knit a pattern to the... Modify. So I wanted to use these three colours together. And they are putty, O'Donnell and bronze green. Okay. And what I've done is I've started at the bottom with the putty, and I've started doing, I think it's 10 row stripes, and then I've come and I've started to decrease the depth of the stripe once I got past the armhole. And then, because I got fed up, because I hate going round and round and round, but by this time I was going backwards and forwards and I still got bored, I did some rib. So you can see the textures slightly changed at the top of the yoke. And then when we got to near the shoulders, I just did them one colour, and they're joined by a 3 needle cast off. I'm getting quite near. I hadn't started the sleeve yesterday when I recorded the podcast, but I'm now doing the sleeve, and it's got a short rose at the top, and I've done a band of the O'Donnell, and I'm now going to do a moss stitch cuff for the sleeve. And because it's so wide, I'm saying this right, and if it's tight on me, and then I'm definitely going to have my mouth sewn up. But because it's so wide, I think I don't need to do very long sleeves. I just like them to sit near my elbow, cover all the chumminess. But the neck is huge, and I'm going to have to do something about that. So I'm going to pick up the stitches and see what I think when they've been picked up, because I did an extra stretchy cast off on them deliberately. Knitted on 3mm needles, which is, I think this is classed as light fingering, on a very heavy lace. And that's why it's taken so long to do. I put it away last year because I was bored to tears. And I think I was near the end of doing the wider stripes. So I've done the majority of it in the last 2 to 3 weeks since I last spoke to you. But if I look at I haven't measured them, but if I look at the depth of the armhole, they're about 14 inches. I mean, you know I like a deep armhole because of my lack of movement. But even that's pushing it a bit. So, but I'm pleased with it, and I think it's going to be nice to wear. I'm hoping that the nature of the linen, that it blooms a little bit when I wash it, and it becomes softer, because it's not the easiest thing to knit with, because it is jumpy. So yeah, so that's the Runway tee. It's quite light, despite being the size it is, and I've done the biggest size. And overall, I'm pleased with it. It's quite a dull combination of colours, but I think it'll go fit nicely into the sort of colour palette that I like to wear. And that's all I've been working on, really. I've started another hat out of some Aran weight, and I haven't got that with me. I'm just finishing the crown on that, but that's just a rib hat, and I'll show you that next time. I need to do a load of blocking this week. Penny kindly said that anything I want to put aside for sale, I can put in I can keep at her house, because I don't want things to be lost or what the word, ruined. Not ruined, but if we keep them in one place at her house, then I'd be a lot happier, and I can just add to it as and when. So yeah, that's all my making. So I haven't really made a lot of progress. I went up to Mum's house last Sunday. Well, a couple of Sundays ago I was there, and we were looking at patterns to make a jacket. Now I've got I think it's an era jacket, and I'll put a photo up, but it's got quite a big neck on it. And because I'm so short, even though I'm wide, I think it's going to be too much around the neck area. But it was a nice simple shape with very deep armholes, which is the sort of thing I'm looking for. And we've never got around to making that, even though I've got the pattern, I've got the copy shop pattern. It's all printed out and cut out, ready to go. And then we had a look and we found the pecker jacket, which is like a swing jacket. And it's what we called in the 80s like an edge-to-edge. so it meets in the middle. It hasn't got any fastenings. But there's two versions, one with reveres and one without, and we're going to make the one without because that's less bulky. And it's got very, very deep pockets. So I'll show you a picture or a couple of pictures, either the line diagrams or something, because I'm, excuse me, talking to you. That's me drinking Pepsi Cola. We won't get through a podcast without a burp. I'm no lady. Yeah, so Mum's got an old duvet cover that she's cut up. You know, she's taken the seams down and showed it me today. And we're going to have a go at making that into a muslin for me for the pecker jacket. So watch this space. So we've been talking about it because I bought some really nice green wool a few years ago with lime green lining. Not lime green lining. I'm thinking of something else, you know. I got confused with something I may be thinking of buying that I didn't actually buy. Anyway, I got some green wool and some lining to make a jacket. There may not be enough, but Mum's got some other wool that will sit nicely with the one I bought. So between the two, we can make hopefully a nice, smarter winter jacket because I've got nothing to go out in apart from my zip-up anoraks, you know. And they're bulky and they're not very dressy. When do I go anywhere dressy? But, you know, it's sometimes nice to wear something a bit different, isn't it? So I bought that pattern, and which brings me neatly into incoming. And when I was writing my notes, I put restrained, ? Because I thought, well, I haven't bought a lot. I bought more than I thought so. When I started making lists and I realised what I'd bought, then, you know, I'm in trouble. So I'm going to show you some of the things. First one is this rather nice set of embroidery templates. Probably saw these on Instagram and immediately had to buy them. I know one of them is floral and one of them is biological. I haven't taken them out the packet and I don't want to until I start using them. But as you can see, they're templates for embroidery, and the idea is that you put them onto, you stitch over them and then you soak them and the transfer disappears. And I quite like the idea of doing that. I've seen people do jeans pockets and, you know, shirt pockets and things. So all I need is an item of clothing that I want to dress up. And the lady is Crafty Dreams by Ash. That's her card. I'll put a link down below. And her name is Ashrifa Anwar. Or Anna, depending on how you pronounce it. They came very quickly and they look very nice, and I think, and she suggests some stitches that you can use on the back, which mean not an awful lot to me at the moment. I'm keeping them in this little bag to keep them safe, and it's the sort of thing that I just really do want to get on with, but I just keep picking up my knitting, and I've said this before. So yeah, I just want to try new things, and I've got to make myself do it. And the summer is the ideal time, really, because I can sit outside, listen to an audio book, which I'm getting more into, to be fair. After the first couple of failed attempts at trying to listen to something. And then sit outside, but it keeps getting too hot. It's either windy and too cold or too hot at the moment. So that's the first thing I bought. And then I was thinking about Christmas, as you do. For the last 10 years, I've been making my mother-in-law a cardigan. And I've made about 9 wool cardigans, either pure wool or wool mix, in anything from 4-ply to Aran, most of them double knitting. She's not a big lady at all, she's petite. And last year when they visited, she said to me, do you know what I'd really like? I said, go on, you tell me, you know, because I was asking her, do you want to choose some yarn while you're here? We can have a look on the computer together. And she said, what I'd really like, she said, I've got this old white cardigan that I wear in the house doing the housework. And I'd like something like that I could just chuck in the wash, you know. It doesn't really matter if I get things on it. So I bought some Stylecraft Chunky, I think it was last year, in a pale blue. It didn't take photographs of very well at all. Rubbish photographs I've kept. But she loves it, and she wears it all the time in the house. And she doesn't get out that often. So the other day I thought I'm going to order some yarn for her now, and then I can make it when I want to. And it's chunky, and it's by a company called Woolcraft. And it's Shetland Tweed Chunky. There's the name, Woolcraft, can you see that? And this is a sort of a lilac-y, it's a bit greyer than that in real life. And it's got coloured neps in it, some of which I will pull out. They look like they're going to come out. Oh, you know, like hanging on. I'll pull them out. And this is, it is 77% acrylic, 20% wool and 3% viscose. And it says it's a 30-degree wash in the machine. It feels very soft. I'm hoping that will be nice for her. I bought 5 of those. Last year I only needed 4, but we'll see. Or did I buy 6 and I only needed 5? You'd think I'd look things up, wouldn't you? But you're used to my chaotic way I go around about things. And then I'm ordering, I'm going to get a couple of things I can make quick things out of, either for presents or again for the store. So I bought some Riot Chunky by King Cole, and this is the apple crumble flavour, colour. It's got a little bit of green and it comes out. Really, I think it should be rhubarb, because, you know, this is nearer rhubarb colours than rhubarb in our garden anyway. But I can see why apple. And I've got 2 of those to make something out of, and that's, I didn't realise it got more wool in it. It's 100 grams, 30% wool, 70% premium acrylic. Premium. And then finally, another King Cole yarn, Curiosity. And I can't remember what they called this on the thing, but it's a colour wheel. I quite like colour wheels. I started knitting in one and I gave up with it because I'd chosen the wrong pattern for it. And I also bought a cotton one, which consisted of 4 strands, and it was a colour changing one. But I grew out of love with that very quickly, and somebody in the charity shop benefited from that. This is 150 grams, so I've got 480 metres, and it's double knitting, and it's 100% a premium acrylic. Well, it's just any acrylic, so that's Curiosity. Sorry, try to avoid the light. So I bought those, and I bought all these from the Isle of Wight Sweets and Wool, or Isle of Wight Wool and Sweets, or something like that. I'll put it down below and I'll put it on the screen. But yeah, that's my recent haul of yarn in order to get on with things. And I'm going to show you what I just had to go and get my main purchase this month, because I'm such a sucker for punishment. It was more Lithuanian linen from Midwinter Yarns. If you remember, I think I said that Stella had kindly sent me 16 grams of the Snelden lace that I needed to finish my unfolding shawl, and I wanted some linen anyway. And after watching Mandy of Mousy Makes, she's done a lovely rocket tee in different stripes, and it inspired me to buy a load of colours in order to do a stripy top. Now this is the same weight obviously as the Runway tee, but it says if you double it it's a DK, and I'm definitely going to split these skeins now I've shown you. Take photographs of it. I'll just go through the colours. I don't think they're named, but that's blowing out quite a bit, but it's a duller mustard than that, and I think mustard suits me. This doesn't suit me, but I've bought it anyway. And it's sort of a corally pink, salmony pink, I'd say, actually. It's coming up a little bit pinker on the screen than it actually is. It's grass green, that's quite true to colour. Maybe a little bit not quite like me. Yeah, well, Anne, why have you bought all these things that don't suit you? A creamy colour. It's a bit yellower in real life, but that should suit most people. And then finally, something that definitely doesn't suit me, a coral. But I like the colour. No. Yeah, I keep saying I'm going to talk about colour, and I will one day. So these are going to be split into 50 grams again, so I can put them together. And I won't be marling them. I'm just going to knit a striped top. But it won't be this year, because I want to knit either the Vincus or the Seleste that I was talking about earlier. Now the Vincus is a free pattern from Morocco. Are they called that? Or am I thinking of the tablets? And that it's all over pattern. I'll put a photograph up. Now Jane of Mouse Knits and Crafts and Mandy of Mousy Makes have both knitted this pattern. Jane has done hers with a patterned front and then stocking stitch sleeves and back, and I think Mandy's done hers as the pattern, so patterned all over, and they both look lovely. I am a bit concerned that an all over pattern with me sat down on my tummy and things might be a bit too much, so I'm going to look at it, and since it's a free pattern, I've already downloaded it. I might take certain elements from the certain stitch patterns, because it goes up in bands with different stitches, as you can see on the photograph. I might take certain ones of them and integrate them into maybe just, you know, from the armholes up or something. I don't know. So we'll see. And also, I don't want anything too holey where I've got to wear a vest top underneath it, like I've had to do with this, because I'd rather just wear it as a summer top on its own, if I can. I'm looking around for something, but I don't know what I'm looking for. I was going to show you the Starcraft yarns, but I'll get the celery, I'll get the two colours out next time and show you, or I may even have cast on, because the idea being that as soon as I finish the Runway tee this week, I'm casting on for another summer top before the weather. We'll be in autumn before we know where we are. We're already at the end of June. Where's it? Oh, it's just going so quickly. So that's my main purchase this month. But I've also been tempted by tonight, Sunday night, Emma from Yarnworthy is doing a fade into autumn, which is similar to an advent, and I've had to not want to go and look at it. She's put a photograph up for inspiration, and I thought, oh, I should have held on and bought that instead of an advent calendar, because I've already bought advent calendars. And then I succumbed to something else as well the other day, which I can't remember. My mind has conveniently gone blank. But I'll show you one day. And the other thing is, I keep looking at the Zakami update and their Dyed to Order yarns, because I really like some of their colour combinations, and I'm thinking, wouldn't that be nice? And it's so true, isn't it, what they say about buying yarn is a different hobby to knitting it. And the trouble is, buying more yarn just gives you more problems about what you're going to knit with it. And I really, really need to get to the stage where I'm buying for specific patterns, which is what I would have done when I was younger. Oh, I like that. I'll go and buy the yarn. Haven't done that for a long time, I'm afraid. You know, see something I might have that, especially if it's a good price. I blame Deb and House of Fraser for having the half price Rowan. It got me into buying things that I had no idea what I was going to use it for. No excuses. Yeah. Of course, I get tempted by lots of other things as well. So let's not forget that I keep looking at yarn, fabric, and Empress Mills had an offer on their gingham, their cotton gingham. It ends tonight, and I was really tempted to buy some black and white 1/4 inch gingham to make a top out of. I might still do that. It depends if I remember when I'm back in the lounge editing these. There's got to be some end to it. But speaking of going out and buying fabric, a couple of weekends ago, Mum and I went to Hereford. It was, I hadn't seen her in the week, and I said to her, do you want to go to Hereford, you see, because it looked like it was going to be a nice day. And she's like, oh yeah, okay. Because when I was at work, we always used to go on a Saturday, and we knew it wasn't too busy. And this time, I don't know if you know Hereford, but we went and parked by Waitrose, and I got 3 hours free being on a blue badge, because we were going to pop into Waitrose before we came home. And also it's not a Waitrose car park, it's one for the cattle market, where the old cattle market was next to the city centre. They've got a new development, and it's got a lot of restaurants in it, and a few shops, like it's got sea salt, a L'Occitane, Fat Face. It did have a Debenhams. It's got the Waitrose. So it's quite nice. It's quite busy around there. People having a wander and a browse, And then we parked there. We went straight into the city centre, and we went through the Buttermarket. And I found a lovely big square top on the market. You've probably seen them. They always say they're Italian, and I think it was 20 quid, and just square. Huge thing, and it's so easy for me to put on, and we've labelled it my moo because it does resemble that. It's too long, it's too wide. I've got to do something about the back of it. It's a bit long at the back for me, but it's lovely to wear because it's just like it's not on, I actually wore it around the pub to see Maggie and Penny, and you can just about see my hand knitted socks at the bottom. I made sure I put my bag on my lap with my knitting in. But it was a nice warm day, and I really wanted to wear something that was quite cool. So yeah, I like it, and I think I might make other tops out of it, just scale down slightly, because although the top would probably come to somebody else's hips, it comes when I'm sat down, because it's so loose, it falls lower, so it comes to the top of my boots. But then I've got very short legs, so yeah, I've got a moo. So we went to Hereford, bought that, and then we went and found a little coffee shop just off the main square that was independent, and they looked like they did nice cakes, so we said we'd go back, and they had an accessible loo. We walked through the grounds of the cathedral via the Mousetrap cheese shop at one of the little alleyways, and that's super. I bought some cheese from there. I think I bought a vintage Gouda, really like an aged Gouda. Cheese called Montgomery, which is near, it's on the Marches, it's on the Wales, England border. I didn't ask, the lad who was serving me seemed quite new. He was all right, but he didn't know a lot about the cheeses. So I just fancied the name because it's my favourite castle, Montgomery. It's and that cheese is quite nice. None of them are too strong. And our favourite, which is Worcester Gold, which is lovely and creamy with a definite taste to it. I bought those, walked around through the cathedral, and then we were looking for somewhere to eat. Where did we end up in the end? Where did we eat? What did we eat? Do you know, I can't remember. Oh, we went into Waitrose for a drink. Do you know, my brain's going. We must have got something to eat. Oh, I know. we went into the something Orchards it is, the shopping centre that was built about 20 odd years ago. It's a shame really because it's only really got a Wilco's in it. It used to have a C&A when it was first opened, and it was a super little C&A. And we went into what would have been the ground floor, I think, of C&A, and there was a community run cafe, and we had a jacket potato. I had coronation chicken, and I had so much chicken I couldn't eat it all, and the jacket potato was really nice. And then we went and had Looking Wilco, opposite one of my favourite cheap shop. We walked back through town, went into Waitrose, had a cup of tea, and then we got back in the car and we drove around to Doughty's. Now Doughty's is a fabric shop. They used to have a shop in town, and they've still got a wool shop in town, which I didn't go in, mainly because they sell acrylic, baby wool, that sort of thing. They don't sell a lot of the higher end stuff. I'm not even sure whether they're a Rowan stockist. I should go and have a look really. But we went to what was I saying, Doughty's, and it was a boiling hot day. It was quite hot. I sat in the car with the sun on me, unfortunately. And Mum nipped in because we didn't know. We don't get the wheelchair out because it's electric and you've got to get the hoist and all that. So I said, go and have a look, because I was thinking she was looking for herself. But she ended up getting me something. And I wish I put a photograph up. But it looks blue, but it's actually green. Sort of a olivey green. Not olivey green. Anyway. It's a Rose and Hubble fabric, and I think it was about £6 a metre, and I bought 3 metres, 18 quid. Very nice quality, feels it anyway. And Mum said it was nice in there. She thinks I would get in my wheelchair, but there's 2 floors, obviously I wouldn't get upstairs. I wouldn't expect them to have a lift. It's a tiny little industrial unit, but they've got plenty in there. Mum said the staff were very helpful. They didn't mind Mum bringing whole bolts out to me, you know. Said, poor mother. You're only 18, your Mum, with these bolts of fabric. She'll hit me when she hears me saying this about. Anyway, so she didn't buy anything, and I bought that fabric. So I took a photograph of it today, and then also I thought you might be interested in seeing something that Mum has done an alteration on. She bought from a charity shop a lovely skirt from Peruna. It's quite an old skirt, I think. And it had lots of gauze in it, you know, so lots of panels. And she didn't like the panel that was grey lace. That's not really her. I'll show you a picture of the grey lace. And instead she found in her wonderful stash of fabric some cotton, pale blue cotton, that sort of it made a nice contrast with, and she replaced those particular panels that she took out of the grey lace with this pale blue, because the pale blue was faded in some bits, and she turned it over and she used the back of it, the reverse of it, which is slightly lighter, and it's turned it into a very, very nice skirt. So I'll show you a couple of photographs of that. She's got to put the waistband on, and she needs to chop it off because I think it was quite a long skirt. My mum's only a dot, 5'3", and it would nearly hit the floor, you know. So she's going to shorten that, and that will be it'll turn out to be a nice, useful piece of addition to her wardrobe. So yeah, so that was our trip to Hereford, and when Mum and Dad tried to find it a couple of years ago, they'd walk down this road because it sits directly behind the train station, but actually it's quite a walk from the train station because there's no immediate bridge. You have to walk to the end of the road, to the main road from Worcester, and then walk back down Bars Court Road. And they'd got to the edge of the industrial estates, little industrial units sort of, and they decided to turn around and go back. If they'd walked another 100 yards, they would have seen it. But I'd recommend it. I know Amanda at Gaga Knits was thinking of going there, but Mom felt it had quite a good selection of fabric. So, and of course it all depends on what you're looking for. But if you look at their website, And when they used to have the shop, they did quite a nice range, lots of quilting fabric and a fair range of dressmaking fabric as well. So that was our visit to Hereford, and it was very nice, and we should go again. It's been too warm here, so I've been sat outside reading when it's been too warm to knit. But also Bertie, he gets poorly if he gets overheated, and up until about 3 years ago he would lie outside a lot, and I would sit outside all the time. And now I'm coming inside because I don't want him to be with me outside. But he's getting less tolerant of the sun and the heat, and brings himself inside, or he'll lie in the shade for about 2 minutes and throw himself into the sunshine again. But he's having trouble getting up and down a little bit because, you know, he's got his back legs aren't as good as they should be. So I've been indoors a lot, or I've been outside at the beginning or the end of the day, either listening or reading. So I'm going to I'll put it at the end of the description what I've been reading. I've read The Locked Room by Ellie Griffiths, which is the latest in the Ruth Galloway series. I'd highly recommend those. Really nice. Not quite cosy crime, but it's nice to get to know the characters in it. All the Rage, which is the latest Inspector Fawley that I've read by Cara Hunter. Not sure there's any more left in the series. I'll have to find out. Heaven's Call, I think it is. I've put Cryer, I think it's Call, by Anne Cleves, which is Matthew Venn, is it? Anyway, it's one of her new inspectors based near Barnstable. They're called the Two Rivers series. Art of Deception by AJ Cross, which I borrowed from the library. Some of these I'm going to take back this week and pick up the last one I've reserved. The Water Room by Christopher Fowler, which is number 2 in the Bryant and May series. They're very good. They make me giggle, and they are about 2 old men who not bumbling about, but you get the impression that other people think they are. And then Darkness by Ragnar Jonasson. I wasn't so keen on that. It was a bit too dark. A Scandi novel. I listened to it and I was a bit disappointed. And I picked up Who Was the Killer. And I know, you know, it's always there for you to see. But I picked up Who Was the Killer. And so I wasn't at all surprised at the end. There you go. Been to Mum's today. Tomorrow I'm going to Evesham Valley Park with Wendy and Amanda. And I don't have any other plans for the rest of the week. But the last thing I want to ask you about is I have owned these completely off the wall, completely not associated with knitting, but I've owned these lovely hair slides now for about 6 or 7 years. And they're resin, and you can see they're lovely detail. They're on quite strong clips, and they, if I show you the biggest one, at the back, they've been glued on. Now, I can't reach to put them in my hair. I think Tom would struggle because my hair is quite wispy now. I'm getting older. How can I use these? I'd like to put them in my hair, and I'm thinking perhaps sew a thin headband and clip them onto the headband. The clips are quite long. I can't really... You know, they're quite long, and I don't know whether we can, snip them off and then Tom make them not so, around the edges a bit on the Dremel. But yeah, any ideas? Because I love the colours, and I bought them to wear, and I've never worn them. And I don't think I can take them off. I mean, they're glued onto the pin, and so I think I've got to keep them on the pin. So any ideas I'd be grateful for. And this is instead of Tom's question this time, because I thought I'd give you this as a poser instead. I'll just give you all my problems. Oh dear. Yeah, well, there you go. Right. I'm going now. I've been talking for 50 minutes. I think I've talked slightly slower than I did yesterday when I prattled through. As always, it's been lovely talking to you, and you can't talk back to me because, you know, I'm in charge around here. But if you want to get in contact, you know you're very welcome, and I love hearing from you. I like to hear what you've been making, and I like to hear what you've been up to. Have you got any funny stories? I don't think I've got any. Oh, I'll tell you what happened to me the other day. I was sat in the just outside here in the morning. I tended to take my cup of tea and things out there before it gets too hot and have a read or whatever. And then I screamed, you see, and the patio door was open. Tom came to the back room and said, "What's the matter?" And I think it was a baby starling had landed on the arm of my wheelchair. And I'd screamed and I turned the chair on, turned round. I was like, and I looked back and he was still there. So I had to gently nudge him, and I thought at once first it was a sparrow, but I realised it must have been a starling. It was a golden eagle, really. It must have been a starling because it was tall enough for me to see over my arms. I think a sparrow, I don't think I would have been able to notice it. But also there've been a lot of starlings on the fat balls because they're very, very argumentative, aren't they? And they've got the babies, and the parents are trying to feed the very demanding babies. So yeah, and that made me jump. But, you know, that was my latest encounter with wildlife. I don't have many. Right, I'm going. You take care. You know where I am if you want to contact me. I had the parcel that I'd sent out from the last mail that I sent to Ireland returned to me. And I think it's because I hadn't signed the customs form because I'm an idiot. So I'm going to be sending that off again, hopefully, on Tuesday. So yes, learnt my lesson now. Like, a bit silly really, because my name and address is on there anyway, but rules is rules. So it said it failed the electronic check, and of course if it's electronic check and the signature's not there, it's not going to look anywhere else for it, is it? So the computer says no. I'm going. It's time for tea. We're having a bacon sandwich because it's Sunday night and my mum's made us some scones. No, Mum, we're not eating them all at once. I'll see you soon, hopefully about a fortnight's time. Bye.